So pay gare. Ta book na chudo. Pena nurchuk bagata pe new mambos go the tare te poyor ko tare chude la tsachimbo da rene de la tsachimbo zo yore. Yena ngatso poyor ko tare shium ba chi girgin nan jaga tani kheba nan jaga khorang zo na te zamz de poyor ko chude la tongchin tare go shike yo mare. Tenangi khora chwa ina khung ta nurchuk girgin tare nyanjo chimbore. Tendi chegu tang chigi boyor na yoni boyor ko nang chu de la startang ka se yo tane tung ngo ne tan boyor ko chu de la lojong shi ya da na tane nyalen shi ya da na tane tan de so da ri sta ka se yo ndo ni to tra shi ki
Okay, so first I definitely agree, and even in my lifetime and the part of my time that I spent studying Buddhism, I saw a tremendous growth in the study of Tibetan Buddhism, and even myself, I started to study Buddhism in Thailand, and then went to China and encountered Buddhism in China, and studied Chinese Buddhism, and eventually discovered deep passion for Indian and Tibetan Buddhism. I think that generally there's a growing interest in among Westerners in Tibetan Buddhism because it seems to me and to a lot of other Westerners that Tibetan Buddhism has more fruitful connection with development in Western philosophy, Western religions, and Western science. For example, the conversation about the nature of the mind that we just had seems to be explored more thoroughly in Indian Buddhism, and then later was transformed to Tibet. So there's a lot of modernistic elements that seems to correspond to themes and topics that were explored among Tibetan Buddhists throughout the centuries. In the general population, there's a lot of respect to Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan culture. It seems this is kind of like a popular image of Tibetan Buddhism in the West, is that it's a tradition that that know how to deal with the stresses of modern life. It's a tradition that can find a joy in life, and when a lot of Westerners have encounter with Buddhists and with Tibetans, either superficially or more deeply, they are really at awe with the simplicity, kindness, compassion, and happiness that they find among the Tibetans that they come in contact with. There's an influx of Tibetan teachers like yourself who's still coming to the West, and they made a deep impression on a lot of people. It seemed to me also that part of what happened now with the study of Tibetan culture and Tibetan Buddhism in the West is that we're moving into a more mature phase. So the earlier decades of interaction were some sort of like a fascination, an idealized vision of what Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan culture is all about. And I think that we got a skewed picture and more of like really an idealized picture of how we would like to see Tibetan Buddhism, more than how Buddhism was really on the ground. And as time goes by, we have a more, and these are the kind of debates that we have in the tradition and the kind of trends that I see. We have a moving towards a more nuance and a more on-the-ground appreciation of Buddhism in Tibet and the way that Buddhism is developed. And part of it is a very intensive effort to translate as many texts as possible. A lot of ethnographical works of people who are going to Tibetan communities and study how either cultural aspects or Buddhist aspects are practiced on the ground.